No. What's this? Just an empty bottle of white lightning. Hang on. Hello everybody, and welcome to Virtual Worlds Raw Stories. I'm on a mission to update this Pokédex, and the hunt for this week's Pokémon has brought me to this leafy forest floor, as it's the perfect habitat for where it can be found. So join me as we create our very own Pokédex entry. Make sure to stick around to the end when I experience what it's like to be this Pokémon. It's not quite how it's meant to be. I think I just stepped in a Snickers bar. At least I hope it's a Snickers bar. I can definitely see some nuts in there. This week, it's Turtwig. Listed as number 387 in the National Pokédex, it first appeared in the Diamond, Pearl, Platinum series and is one of the starter Pokémon of the Sinnoh region. In order to register its image in the Pokédex, I'm going to create one of these models, designed by the wonderful team over at Paperpokes. And whilst I'm getting on with that, and testing if this is chocolate or not, let's see how Turtwig got its name. Turtwig's name can be broken down into two parts, Turt and Twig. Turt comes from turtle, an English word from the Middle English tortue, from the Old French tortue, deriving from the medieval Latin tortuca, the same source as tortoise, but we'll save that etymology for another day. The dictionary defines a turtle as any land or marine reptile of the order Testudines, characterized by a protective shell enclosing its body. Twig is from, well, twig, an English word from the Proto-Germanic Twiga, shared with the German Zweig, traced all the way back to the Proto-Indo-European word duo, all of these words sharing a root in the word two, referencing the way twigs split into multiple shoots. The dictionary defines a twig as a small thin branch of a tree or bush. Tortuca, duo, Turtwig. As I attempt to pronounce its Japanese name, I can only apologize for any butchered pronunciation. Its Japanese name, Neitl, is a combination of ne, meaning sprout, and the English word turtle. Turtwig is classified as the tiny leaf Pokémon, but it's not the size of the leaf that matters, it's the way it photosynthesizes. And this is what Turtwig looks like. As can be seen, quite a short Pokémon overall. Its skin is this light green colour because it's a grass type, with this yellow coloration on its cheek and jaw, around its eyes and on the soles of its feet. Speaking of its feet, it has four, which supports this squat body, on top of which is this brown protective shell with these black edges. And at the front is this large head with this hooked lip, these big yellow eyes, and on the top is this little twig with a couple of leaves sprouting out. And now we've got all that registered, let's take a look at the real-world inspirations that went into its design. I mean, can you tell me what this is?
Turtwig, if you hadn't guessed it before, is based on a turtle. More specifically, a snapping turtle. These reptiles, native to the Nearctic region, have a shorter lifespan than some of their shelled cousins, reaching around 30 years in the wild. Talking about its shell, it does have a hardened outer carapace, which is ubiquitous with other turtles. However, its plastron, the hard plate that protects a turtle's stomach, is much smaller on a snapping turtle, meaning that it can't withdraw its head and legs into itself for protection. This leaves a snapping turtle vulnerable to predators, but this is offset with the creature's extremely aggressive temperament. Their bite is so powerful that it can bite a human's finger clean off. So maybe think twice about your dream career of becoming a turtle dentist. Turtwig also draws inspiration from the fictional mythological entity known as the World Turtle. However, this is a fascinating inspiration to explore and deserves more attention, so I'll be saving this in-depth look for one of Turtwig's later evolutions. A snapping turtle lends many of its characteristics to Turtwig's design. The low body, protective upper shell, lack of a protective undershell. And what makes the snapping turtle the main inspiration as opposed to other turtles is the shared hooked bill present on both creatures, something to help them chomp down on anything that aggroes them. Better start calling Turtwig your favourite starter from now on.
Grass. Turtwig weighs in at 22.5 pounds, around 10.2 kilos, or approximately 127 of these plants. Turtwig stands at 1 foot 4 inches, around 0.4 meters, or the height of this plant. An extremely simple footprint, You'd think you'd just dropped a croquet ball rather than one of these little creatures walking by. Now it's time to see how Turtwig acts in the wild. And the best way to do that is to do as the Pokémon do. Having a read of Turtwig's bio, one of the things it says is that its shell is made of hardened soil. So I started doing some research in how to make hardened soil. And something I came across was a Japanese art form known as Dorodango. And it really piqued my interest. So I'm going to attempt to make a Dorodango and show you the steps how you can make one yourself. You only need a few things to make a Dorodango. You need some soil, some sand, a plastic bag, and a cloth. Will give you a better view. So first off, you need to make some mud. Best way to do that is by mixing some soil and water together. Now you can use any kind of soil, and apparently the different kinds of soils will produce a different kind of result at the end. And what's so simple about this is that you can just get some soil from anywhere. Now I've decided to buy my soil because a few months ago I went on a big kick to grow my own plants. And I bought a big tower and I got all these seeds, this cress and all this stuff. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna grow my own vegetables and rocket and all of this. So I bought all the seeds and I bought the little watering can and I came up with a little schedule on how to water it all and everything. But I thought, I'm not gonna pay for soil. We live on Earth, you know, it's literally called Earth. It's free. Why would I pay for something that I could just get for free? So I went to a local park and filled up about 3 lunch boxes worth of soil. Came back, potted my plants, started watering them, went about my business. A few days later, some of them begin to sprout. A few days after that, I'm looking and I notice a few ants crawling about in the soil, and I'm like, well, you know, I did get it from a park, so that's fine. I come back a few days later and my room is infested with flying ants. Infested. And that's when I realised, that's why people buy soil. Now, no matter where you do get your soil, make sure to sieve it out because you want it to be as fine as possible. Remove any rocks or any little bits and such. You want to turn it into a ball and you want to squeeze out what water there is. Now you can use any kind of tub to mix your soil in, any brand of confectionery, whether it be Heroes or Quality Street, a Family Circle bonanza of biscuits. I've opted for celebrations because there's always a reason to celebrate when you're here watching these videos with me. So now that you have your basic core, what you want to do is then to start to sprinkle the dried dirt on top in order to help draw out some moisture. First, use the soil, and then after a while, I'm going to move on to using sand instead. So 1 episode of Red Dwarf later, and we're left with this. Now, I'm not sure if this is how it's meant to be, but this is my first attempt. So I'm just going to proceed with the next step. What we need to do is get our plastic bag. This is a nightmare, by the way. And then we place the ball in the plastic bag and we leave it for a considerable amount of time because this will draw the water out of the ball. Through the magical power of condensation, it will hopefully dry the ball out. So there's nothing left to do but go to sleep. So I've left my Dorodango ball overnight to sweat it out. Now let's see what we're left with. It's not quite how it's meant to be. It's meant to be a lot drier than this. and it has the look of a homemade protein ball. I was ruminating on this today when I was cycling about, and I think the sand that I was using was wrong. I think it needs to be a finer dirt. So this is, yeah, this is what we've got. We're gonna work with it, and I'm just gonna go through the final steps. I've got a feeling that this is a complete failure, but you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. So the next thing you're meant to do is keep covering it with soil. That's what I'm gonna do. Just might as well go through the motions. I don't think this has worked. I don't think it will work. I'm going to show you what I was meant to do with the cloth, which long-time viewers may recognise from my Cyndaquil episode, because this is the other half of the t-shirt that I use to strap flamethrowers to my back. So what's meant to happen with the cloth is, once you've got it to a state, you're then meant to polish it. I'm just gonna give it a go, because you never know, do you? You never know. See, what's happening is, as I'm polishing it, it's just bringing off the top layer of dirt. You can feel how moist it is. It hasn't been a success. So unfortunately, I have failed this challenge. But never mind, you know, it was my very first attempt, and I'm just starting with it. I may come back to it for one of Turtwig's evolutions. Feel free to follow the tips on how to make it. I mean, maybe don't.
Now we've got the raw data compiled, let's see what it does to our page. And that's Turtwig's Pokédex entry completed! Let's take a quick read of what its biography says. Photosynthesis occurs across its body under the sun. The shell on its back is actually hardened soil. Hopefully they're not relying on my Dorodango skills for help with this.
And that is another Pokédex entry updated. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything new that you've learned? Is there anything that I've missed out? And have you ever made a Dorodango ball? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and make sure to stick around, because this adventure is far from over. But for now, my friends, luck and more to you all. Catch you next time. I'm gonna need a wet wipe for this. How's that? Won't even look at me in the eye.